Today I will show you the 7 giants who defied the scales and broke records. True human tanks who made the NFL tremble. Prepare your reinforced seat because these players not only stood out for their talent, but for taking the weight of American football to another level. Let's start with the most giant. Desmond Watson is not just a football player, he is a force of nature who has defied expectations at every step of his career. With 464 pounds, Watson became the heaviest player in NFL history upon signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2025. But his story goes far beyond his size. From his days at Armwood High School, Florida, Watson was an imposing presence on the field. His colossal size made him a local legend, and his talent led him to play for the Florida Gators, where he participated in 51 games and accumulated 63 tackles. Despite his contributions, his weight was a constant concern, and coaches worked tirelessly to help him control his body mass, which kept growing. During his time in college, Watson struggled with weight control, reaching up to 464 pounds. Recognizing the need for change, he embarked on a weight loss journey, adopting healthier habits and working with nutritionists and trainers to improve his physical condition. At his pro day, he impressed scouts with 36 bench press repetitions and a 40-yard dash in 5.93 seconds, proving that his size was not an obstacle to his athletic performance. Despite not being selected in the NFL draft, the Buccaneers saw potential in Watson and signed him as an undrafted free agent. The team considers him a long-term project, hoping that his unique combination of size and skill can become a strategic advantage on the defensive line. But ladies and gentlemen, there we have the fattest man in the NFL. Let's continue, because those extra pounds are not over yet. Aaron Gibson was not simply a football player. He was an authentic human mountain who defied the physical limits of the sport. With a weight of 410 pounds, he became the heaviest player in NFL history. His presence on the field was so imposing that it seemed every step he took made the ground shake. From his days at Decatur Central High School, Indiana, Gibson stood out for his colossal size, weighing more than 350 pounds. His talent led him to the University of Wisconsin, where he became a dominant force on the offensive line. In 1999, the Detroit Lions selected him in the first round of the draft, hoping that his bulk would be an impenetrable wall against opposing defenses. However, Gibson's career was plagued with challenges. Injuries, especially in the shoulders, kept him off the field during his rookie season. Despite his impressive size, his mobility was compromised, and the expectations placed on him began to fade. The Lions eventually released him, and although he had brief stints with the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears, he never managed to establish himself as the dominant force many had hoped for. Off the field, he faced even tougher battles. His struggle with weight continued, and at one point he reached 480 pounds. This physical burden came accompanied by mental health issues, including depression and dependence on painkillers. He faced dark moments, but with determination, he managed to lose weight, reducing his size to 290 pounds, and began a path toward recovery and stability. Let's continue with Terrell Brown, who was not simply a football player, he was an authentic human mountain of fat and muscle mass that defied the physical limits of the sport. With a weight of 403 pounds, his presence on the field was so imposing that it seemed every step he took made the ground shake. In 2013, San Francisco signed him as an undrafted free agent, and although he didn't play in official games, his colossal size didn't go unnoticed in practices. However, his NFL career was short-lived. Shortly after, the St. Louis Rams signed him, but his time with the team was also brief. Despite his impressive physique, Brown never managed to establish himself in the league, and his story became more of a curiosity than a sports legend. We move on quickly to Nate Newton, and with a weight of 401 pounds, his presence on the field was so imposing that it seemed every step he took made the ground shake. Nicknamed the Kitchen for being bigger than the refrigerator William Perry, Newton was selected to the Pro Bowl 6 times and won 3 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys in the 1990s. His ability to protect the quarterback and open paths for runners made him a key piece of the Cowboys' offensive line. However, his career was not without challenges. After retiring, Newton faced legal issues related to drug trafficking, which resulted in a 30-month sentence in federal prison. During his time in prison, he experienced a personal transformation, adopting a healthier lifestyle and losing more than 175 pounds. We cannot forget Bryant McKinnie. With his imposing 386 pounds, he was a standout figure in the NFL. Selected in the first round of the 2002 draft by the Minnesota Vikings, McKinnie became a key piece of their offensive line, starting 80 consecutive games between 2003 and 2007. His career career also included stints with the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. During his time at the University of Miami, McKinney was awarded the Outland Trophy in 2001 and was a central figure on the team that won the national championship that same year. In the NFL, his crowning moment came with the Ravens, where he started every playoff game in the 2012 to 2013 season, significantly contributing to the victory in Super Bowl 47. Among the heavyweights is also William the Refrigerator Perry. With a weight of 382 pounds, his presence on the field was imposing. Selected in the first round of the 1985 draft by the Chicago Bears, Perry quickly became a national sensation. During his rookie season, coach Mike Ditka surprised everyone by using Perry, a defensive tackle, as a running back in short yardage situations. This strategy culminated in Super Bowl 20, where Perry scored a touchdown, becoming the heaviest player to do so in Super Bowl history. This moment was not only memorable for its impact on the game, but also for the surprise and excitement it generated among fans. Beyond the field, Perry became a celebrity. He appeared on television shows like The A-Team, starred in commercials for McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and was immortalized as a G.I. Joe action figure. His charisma and personality made him a media and public favorite. However, life after football was not easy for Perry. He faced health issues including diabetes and Guillain-Barré syndrome and struggled with alcoholism. Despite these challenges, his legacy as one of the most endearing and unique characters in the NFL endures. And we close this colossal list with Michael Jasper, a true titan from a tiny university, but with a presence that took up half the field. Although his time in the NFL was brief and he didn't play in official games, his figure commanded respect in every practice. With 378 pounds firmly planted and 6 feet 4 inches tall, Jasper was easier to go around than to move. Today, far from the spotlight, he dedicates himself to coaching new generations, proving that legacy is not always measured in statistics, but in the ability to inspire. Thus, we end this journey through the most colossal bodies to step onto the professional gridiron. Some were legends, others curiosities, but all of them proved that in the NFL, size does matter. And a lot. Which of these giants impressed you the most? And which one would you not want running toward you at full speed? Imagine this: 80,000 people screaming, cameras rolling live, the game at its highest point, and suddenly, silence. A motionless body on the field, a helmet that doesn't rise again. Welcome to a video that not everyone will be able to finish. Today, you're about to witness the 10 most horrifying injuries in NFL history. Moments when American football stopped being a game and turned into a nightmare. Get ready to see broken bones, ruined careers, and plays that still haunt thousands of fans. This isn't for the faint of heart. Are you ready to relive the moments that froze an entire nation? Then don't blink, because this is as close as you'll get to hell on a football field. Number 1, the image is impossible to forget. Joe Theismann falls to the ground and his leg snaps in half, literally. The bone sticks out. The angle is inhuman. Within seconds, the stadium goes from roaring to dead silent. And Lawrence Taylor, the man who brought him down, doesn't celebrate. He screams for help, knowing he just witnessed something monstrous. But before we go deeper into this painful memory, please subscribe. I promise to bring you the best and worst moments in NFL history. It was November 18th, 1985. Washington Redskins versus New York Giants. The game aired during prime time on Monday Night Football, with millions watching from home. Joe Theismann was 36 years old, nearing the end of his career, but still Washington's starting quarterback, a war-hardened veteran with a Super Bowl ring and the reputation of being a smart, solid leader. He had given his entire career to that franchise, and at that moment, he was literally the team's brain on the field. The play was a trick move, a flea flicker pass designed to confuse the defense, but it didn't work. On the other side of the field was Lawrence Taylor, probably the most feared linebacker to ever play the game, a player who redefined the position, known for attacking like a wild beast and bringing chaos with every snap. Taylor broke through the offensive line like a missile and caught Theismann from behind. The hit wasn't just brutal, it was surgically devastating. The quarterback's right leg got trapped under Taylor's weight and that of another defender. The result, a compound fracture of the tibia and fibula, with visible bone displacement. It was so graphic that TV networks stopped replaying it. Theismann collapsed, silent. Years later, he said he didn't feel pain at first, just absurd pressure and the immediate knowledge that something was terribly wrong. Taylor, seeing the injury, panicked. He frantically waved for medical staff. That moment, that gesture, is what many fans remember most, watching one of the toughest men in football react with genuine horror. Joe Theismann's career ended that night. He never threw a professional pass again, but beyond that, that, the injury marked a turning point in the NFL. It was the first time millions witnessed live how a single sack could destroy a career in seconds. It changed how the league viewed injuries, how players were treated, and how much respect we give to those who risk everything every Sunday on the field. Number 2, Darryl Stingley. The hit that left him motionless. The moment was brutal and devastating. Darryl Stingley, wide receiver for the New England Patriots, leapt to catch a pass during a 1978 preseason game. It wasn't a do-or-die match. No trophies were at stake, just a friendly game. But what happened changed the history of the sport. Jack Tatum, the infamous Oakland Raiders defender known as the Assassin, struck him at full speed right at the moment of contact. The hit was clean, but merciless. Stingley hit the ground and never got up again. The result was a fracture of 2 cervical vertebrae and a compressed spinal cord. At just 26 years old, he was paralyzed from the chest down with no chance of walking again, let alone playing football. The entire NFL was in shock. This wasn't just an injury, it was a shattered life. Darryl Stingley spent the rest of his days in a wheelchair, and though he never publicly blamed Tatum, the hit sparked a wave of debate about violence in football. It was the first major reminder that this game, glorious and brutal, can destroy lives in a single second. Number 3, Bo Jackson. The goodbye of a superhuman. Bo Jackson wasn't just a player, he was a phenomenon, a two-sport legend, a man who dominated both the NFL and MLB. By 1991, the Raiders had him as their most explosive weapon. But then came the day the impossible happened. During a playoff game against the Bengals, Bo took off running with the ball and was tackled from behind. He fell sideways, seemingly without drama. He stood up and fell again. He didn't know it at the time, but his hip had dislocated, and that hit triggered a medical nightmare, a vascular necrosis. The bone began to die due to a lack of blood supply. He tried to come back. He fought. He even returned to baseball, but his NFL career ended that day. One of the most complete athletes the world has ever seen was stopped by a play with no violence, no spectacle, just a wrong turn, a bad moment, and the world lost the Bo Jackson that could have been the greatest of all time. Number 4, Johnny Knox, the body that folded like paper. December 18th, 2011, Chicago Bears versus Seattle Seahawks. Johnny Knox, a fast and promising receiver, dove to recover a fumbled ball. That's when fate struck in the cruelest possible way. As he hit the ground, Knox was slammed full force by a defender coming in hot. His body bent unnaturally, like he'd been folded backwards in half. An image impossible to watch without cringing. Spinal fracture, emergency surgery, spinal fusion. The recovery was long, painful, and ultimately futile. Johnny Knox never played again. He was only 25 with a bright future ahead of him. The most shocking part of Knox's case isn't just the physical damage, it's the way his body folded live on television, like it was made of rubber. It was a brutal reminder that in the NFL, even the youngest and fittest can fall at any moment, and when they fall, sometimes they don't get back up. Sir Samedi. Number 5, Reggie Brown, the linebacker who died for seconds. It was December 1997, Detroit Lions versus New York Jets. The game had been uneventful until Reggie Brown, a 23-year-old linebacker, went in for a tackle. In the chaos of the play, his head collided with a teammate's thigh, and everything stopped. Brown collapsed onto the field and never moved again. Players dropped to their knees. The crowd went silent, and right there on the field, paramedics had to resuscitate him. Yes, he was clinically dead. His spinal cord had suffered severe trauma to the neck. He never played again. Thankfully, he survived and went on to live a life outside of football. But that night, under the bright lights of prime time, the NFL came terrifyingly close to absolute tragedy. Number 6, Dennis Byrd, a miracle in the shadows. November 29th, 1992. Dennis Byrd, defensive end for the New York Jets, launched himself with full force to sack the opposing quarterback. But instead of hitting his target, he collided head-on with a teammate. It happened in an instant. A direct hit, no time to react. The result, a broken neck, temporary paralysis, and the end of his career. Doctors told him he would never walk again, but Byrd refused to give up. He clung to an unlikely recovery, and against all odds, he stood up again. He never returned to the field, but his story became one of the most inspiring in football history. A story of pain, struggle, and faith. Number 7, Napoleon McCallum. The leg he nearly lost Monday Night Football, 1994. Napoleon McCallum, running back for the Raiders, charged forward with power until he was tackled. His leg was trapped under the weight of defenders. What happened next looked like something out of a horror film. His knee bent backward in a grotesque way. The silence was instant. Ligaments tore, an artery ruptured, and critical nerves were damaged. Not only did it end his career, he nearly lost the entire leg. This was one of those injuries where it's no longer about a comeback to the sport, it's about survival, pure and simple. Number 8, Kevin Everett, the body that fell like a tree 2007 season opener. Kevin Everett, tight end for the Buffalo Bills, sprinted downfield to stop a kickoff return and collapsed. No movement, not a finger, not a twitch, nothing. He had suffered a catastrophic spinal injury. The prognosis was grim. He'd likely never walk again, but doctors moved quickly, using an experimental hypothermia treatment to reduce swelling. Against all odds, Everett regained movement, walked again, and became a symbol of hope. But his career ended that day, before it ever really began. Number 9. Eric LeGrand, the paralysis that moved a nation. It didn't happen in the NFL, but it hit the football world just as hard. October 2010, Eric LeGrand, a Rutgers defensive player, dove to make a tackle and never moved again. The impact caused total paralysis from the neck down. He was just 20 years old. His story spread through media, stadiums, and social networks. It was a brutal reminder. It doesn't matter if you're in college or the pros, the risk is the same, and sometimes it's everything. Since then, LeGrand has become a speaker, activist, and living inspiration. His body was broken, but his spirit lifted millions. Number 10. Alex Smith. The Most Impossible Comeback, November 18th, 2018. Exactly 33 years after Joe Theismann's devastating injury, another Washington quarterback faced the same nightmare. Alex Smith was taken down violently by two defenders, a compound fracture of the tibia and fibula. The images were a chilling echo from the past, but the worst came after: infections, necrosis, 17 surgeries, and the very real possibility of amputation. What started as a sports injury became a battle for survival, and then the unthinkable happened. In 2020, Alex Smith returned to the NFL with a reconstructed leg, visible scars, and the eternal respect of the entire sports world. He didn't win a championship, but he achieved something far greater. He beat death on its own field. These injuries aren't just accidents. They are bloody reminders of the price paid for glory in the NFL. While millions cheer every Sunday for touchdowns, epic plays, and cinematic finishes, there's a truth hiding behind every collision, every block, every fall. This sport, so thrilling, so lethal, demands its tribute in flesh, bone, and broken lives. The damage isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, familial. Many of these players were never the same again. Some fought to walk, others to live. And yet, within that darkness, we also saw something extraordinary: the resilience, the courage, and the raw force of the human spirit. Because these men, though they fell, didn't give up. They turned their pain into legacy. Their tragedies forced the league to change rules, improve protocols, and rethink safety. But the danger remains every time the ball is snapped. Because in the NFL, the line between glory and tragedy is as thin as a vertebra, or one wrong step. If this video struck a chord, if any of these stories moved you, subscribe, not just to see more content, but to join us on this journey through the hardest, bravest, and most real stories in sports. Because here, we don't just tell plays, we tell what no one else dares to say, what it truly costs to be part of the game.